My name is Ruby Miller. I am 29 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. The auditorium was loud. People were cheering. I could hear air horns and clapping as names were called. But when the dean called my name, Ruby Miller, the silence was the only thing I heard. I walked across the stage. My graduation robe felt heavy on my shoulders. I looked down at the front row. I had fought so hard to get 3 seats reserved right there. They were the best seats in the house, and they were empty. My mother wasn't there. My father wasn't there. My brother wasn't there. They weren't stuck in traffic. They weren't sick. I knew exactly where they were. They were sitting on a couch across town, drinking beer and watching the Super Bowl pregame show. They chose a football game over 6 years of my hard work. I shook the dean's hand. I smiled for the official camera, but inside something broke. It felt like a glass vase shattering in my chest. I walked out to the cold parking lot holding my diploma. The wind hit my face. I stood there alone, and I realized something important. The daughter who begged for their love died in that parking lot. The woman who would survive them was just waking up. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Ruby Miller. I am 29 years old. To understand why those empty seats hurt so much, you have to understand the 6 years that came before them. You have to understand that my degree wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a war I fought every single day, and I fought it completely alone. I started college late. My brother, Jake, went straight to a university after high school. My parents paid for his tuition, his dorm, his meal plan, and even his fraternity dues. They threw him a huge going-away party. I remember my dad clapping him on the back, telling everyone how proud he was of his champ. Jake dropped out after 3 semesters because he liked partying more than studying. He came home, moved back into his old room, and my parents didn't say a word. They just welcomed him back and filled the fridge with his favorite sodas. When I said I wanted to go to college, the reaction was different. I was 22. I had been working at a diner since I was 18, handing over half my paycheck to help with household expenses. One night at dinner, I put down my fork and said, "I applied to the university. I got in. I'm going to study accounting." My dad didn't even look up from his mashed potatoes. He just chewed and said, "Good for you, Ruby. Just don't expect us to foot the bill. We spent our college fund on Jake." "I know," I said. My voice was small. "I'm going to work. I'll take night classes." My mom sighed, like I was causing her a huge inconvenience. "Just make sure you can still drive me to my physical therapy on Thursdays," she said. "And we still need your share of the rent." That was the deal. No congratulations, no good luck. Just a reminder to keep paying them. For the next 6 years, my life was a blur of exhaustion. I woke up at 5 a.m. to study before my morning shift at the diner. I worked from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. on my feet, carrying heavy trays, dealing with rude customers, and smelling like grease and old coffee. My ankles would swell up so bad that by the time I got home, I had to ice them just to put my shoes back on for class. I took the bus to campus because my car, a beat-up sedan I bought myself, was usually being borrowed by Jake. He had a car, but he didn't like to put miles on it, or he didn't have gas money, so he took mine. I remember one specific Tuesday in my second year. I had a major statistics midterm at 6 p.m. I came home from work at 2:30 p.m., desperate for a nap and a shower. I walked into the kitchen and found the sink piled high with dirty dishes. Pots with crusty spaghetti sauce, plates with half-eaten burgers, glasses with dried milk. My mom was sitting at the table painting her nails. Jake was on the couch watching TV. "Ruby, finally," Mom said, not looking at me. "The kitchen is a disaster. I need you to clean it up before you go. Aunt Helena is coming over later and I don't want her to think we live like pigs." I stared at her. "Mom, I have an exam in 3 hours. I need to study. Jake is right there. Why can't he do it?" Jake laughed from the living room. "I'm busy, Ruby. I'm in the middle of a raid." He was playing a video game. "He's tired," Mom said, blowing on her wet nails. "Just do it, Ruby. It will take you 20 minutes. You're faster at it anyway." "I'm tired too," I said. My voice shook. "I worked an 8-hour shift. I have a test that determines 30% of my grade." "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. "Stop being so selfish. We let you live here." "I pay rent," I yelled. It was one of the few times I raised my voice. "I pay rent to live here." My dad walked in then. He saw me yelling and his face went red. "Don't you speak to your mother that way," he shouted. "If you're so smart with your college books, you can figure out how to wash a dish." I washed the dishes. I cried while I did it, letting the tears fall into the soapy gray water. I scrubbed the pots until my knuckles were raw. Then I ran to the bus stop, missed the bus, and had to pay $40 for a taxi just to make it to my exam on time. I got a B on that test. If I had had time to study, I knew I would have gotten an A. That was my life. Every A-, every B+, every past class was a miracle. I tried to share my victories with them. In my third year, I made the dean's list. I brought the letter home, feeling a spark of pride in my chest. I put it on the fridge with a magnet, right next to a calendar of upcoming football games. 2 days later, the letter was in the trash. Jake had needed the magnet to hang up a flyer for a concert he wanted to go to. "Where is my dean's list letter?" I asked Mom. "Oh, was that important?" she asked, chopping carrots. "I thought it was just school mail. You get so much junk." "It said I was in the top 10% of my class," I whispered. "Well, you don't have to brag, Ruby," she said. "Jake is going through a hard time right now finding a job. You shouldn't rub your success in his face. It hurts his feelings." I stopped sharing after that. I stopped talking about my classes. I stopped talking about the nights I stayed up until 4 a.m. writing papers. I stopped telling them about the professors who told me I had a brilliant mind for numbers. I kept it all inside. I became a ghost in my own house. I was just the girl who paid rent, cleaned the kitchen, and drove Mom to her appointments. But I had one dream that kept me going. One vision that got me through the double shifts and the long bus rides. Graduation. I imagined the moment I would walk across the stage. I imagined looking out into the crowd and seeing them there. I thought, if I just finish this, if I just get the degree, if I show them I'm a professional, that I made something of myself, then they will finally look at me. They will finally see me. I thought the degree would be the ticket to their love. 6 months before graduation, I told them the date. May 15th, I said at dinner. "Put it in your phones, it's my graduation ceremony." "May," Dad frowned. "That's a busy time at the plant." "It's a Saturday," I said. "Please. It's really important to me." "We'll see," Mom said vaguely. 3 months before graduation, I bought the cap and gown. I brought it into the living room to show them. I put it on, spinning around. The black fabric swished around my legs. "Does it fit?" I asked. "It looks big," Jake said. "You look like a bat." "It's supposed to be loose," I said, ignoring him. "Mom, did you request the day off?" "I think so," she said, flipping through a magazine. "I'll have to check." 1 month before graduation, I ordered the tickets. We were only allowed 4 tickets per student. I requested 3. 1 for Mom, 1 for Dad, 1 for Jake. I didn't invite my friends. I didn't invite my coworkers. I wanted them. I wanted my family. I handed them the tickets in physical envelopes. I wrote their names on them in my neatest handwriting. "These are the tickets," I said. "You need these to get in. Please don't lose them. They are front row." I waited in line for 3 hours at the registrar's office to get the reserved section. "Front row," Dad said, looking at the ticket. "That's a lot of pressure. What if I need to use the restroom?" "Just please come," I said. "It starts at 10 a.m., but you need to be there by 9:30 to get seated." "We'll be there," Mom said. She actually smiled. "It's a big day." I held on to that smile for weeks. I let myself believe it. I let myself believe that after 6 years of being the invisible daughter, I was finally going to have my moment. The week before graduation, the energy in the house shifted. But it wasn't about me. It was about the Super Bowl. The team my dad and Jake loved had made it to the big game. It was all they talked about. They bought new jerseys. They bought a new 60-inch TV on a credit card. They planned a massive party. "The game is on Sunday, right?" I asked nervously on Friday night. "Yeah, Sunday night," Jake said, eyes glued to ESPN. "Okay, good," I said. "My graduation is Saturday morning, so it doesn't conflict." Right, Dad said. "Pass the chips." The morning of graduation, I woke up at 6 a.m. I was too nervous to sleep. I curled my hair. I did my makeup carefully. I put on a nice white dress under my black robe. I walked into the kitchen at 7:30 a.m. The house was silent. "Mom," I called out. "Dad," no answer. Their bedroom door was shut. Jake's door was shut. I knocked on my parents' door. "Mom, it's 7:30. We need to leave in an hour. It takes 40 minutes to get to the stadium." A groan from inside. "Ruby," it was my dad's voice. He sounded groggy. "What time is it?" 7:30, I said. "Graduation." "Oh right," he said. "Listen, honey, we were up late last night prepping for the party. Your mom has a migraine." My stomach dropped. "But you have to get up. You have the tickets." "We're moving a little slow," he said through the door. "You go on ahead, we'll meet you there, we'll take Jake's car." "Are you sure?" I pressed. "Parking is a nightmare." "We'll be there," he promised. "Go. Save us a spot if you can." I stood in the hallway for a full minute. I looked at the closed doors. I felt a cold, prickly feeling on the back of my neck, but I pushed it down. I grabbed my keys. I grabbed my cap. "Okay," I yelled through the door. "I'll see you there, I love you." They didn't answer. I drove to the stadium alone. I listened to upbeat music to try and stop my hands from shaking. I parked the car and walked into the sea of students and families. Everyone was hugging. Dads were holding bouquets of flowers. Moms were fixing their daughters' caps. I checked my phone. 9 a.m. Text to mom, "I'm here. Entrance B, hurry." No reply. I went to the check-in tent. I got my name card. I found my seat in the graduating class section. I looked over at the guest section. The 3 seats in the front row, the ones I had fought for, were empty. I sat down. I waited. 9:15 a.m. Text to Jake, "Are you guys on the way? Traffic is bad." No reply. 9:30 a.m. The ceremony was starting in 30 minutes. The seats were still empty. 9:45 a.m. I started to panic. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. I called my dad. Ring, 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 voicemail. I called Jake. He picked up on the second ring. "Hello?" He sounded wide awake. I heard noise in the background. "Jake. Where are you?" I whispered, ducking my head so the other students wouldn't hear me. "The ceremony starts in 15 minutes. "Oh, hey Ruby," he said. He didn't sound like he was in a car. He sounded like he was in a kitchen. "Yeah, bad news, the car wouldn't start." "What?" I asked. "Jake's car." "Yeah, dead battery. Dad's trying to jump it but it's not working." "Take an Uber," I said. "Just call an Uber. You can still make it for the second half." "Uber is expensive, Rubes," he said. "Plus, Mom's migraine is getting worse. The sun is really bright." "Jake," I said, tears stinging my eyes. "It's my graduation. I worked 6 years for this." We know," he said. "Look, we're really proud of you. We'll celebrate tonight. We'll have cake during halftime tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" I asked. "The Super Bowl party." "Yeah. It'll be a double celebration." "Look, I gotta go. Dad's calling me." Click, he hung up. I sat there in my black robe. The auditorium was buzzing with excitement. The orchestra started playing the opening notes of Pomp and Circumstance. I looked at the 3 empty chairs in the front row. They looked like missing teeth in a smile. They weren't coming. The car wasn't broken. I knew that. Jake's car was brand new. And even if it was broken, they had 2 other cars in the driveway, or they could have called a cab or a neighbor. They just didn't want to come. The music swelled. The procession began. We were supposed to stand up. I stood up. My legs felt like lead. I was surrounded by 500 other students, but I had never felt more isolated in my entire life. To my left, a girl named Sarah was waving frantically at the balcony. "Hi, Mom." "Hi," she mouthed, beaming. Her mom was waving back with both hands. To my right, a guy was texting his dad. He showed me his screen. "My dad said he brought an air horn. I'm so embarrassed." He laughed. "That's nice," I said. My voice sounded hollow. The dean walked up to the podium. He started giving a speech about the future, about how our families supported us, about the sacrifices our parents made to get us here. "Look into the stands," the dean said. "Look at the people who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself." The whole class turned to look at the audience. Hundreds of faces, smiling, crying, taking photos. I didn't turn, I couldn't. I kept my eyes fixed on the back of the person in front of me. I stared at the black fabric of their gown until my vision blurred. If I turned around, I would see the empty space. And if I saw the empty space, I knew I would start screaming. I sat through the speeches. I didn't hear a word. I was replaying the last 6 years in my head. Every shift I worked. Every textbook I bought with my own tips. Every time I drove Mom to the doctor. Every time I cleaned up Jake's messes. Why wasn't I enough? Why was I worth less than a football game? Finally, the name calling began. Adams, Jennifer, cheers. Baker, Thomas, air horns. The line moved slowly. I shuffled forward. My heart was pounding, not with excitement but with dread. I was approaching the stage. This was the moment I had dreamed of, and now I just wanted it to be over. I wanted to disappear. I stepped onto the stairs. The stage lights were bright. They blinded me for a second. "Miller, Ruby," the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. I walked to the center of the stage. I paused. It was instinct. "You are supposed to pause so your family can take a picture." Silence. There was polite applause from the rest of the room, the kind strangers give you, but there was no screaming. No, that's my girl. No air horn. I looked down. I couldn't help it. My eyes went straight to the front row, Section A, seats 4, 5, and 6. Empty, empty, empty. The velvet seats were folded up. They looked cold. The dean was holding out his hand. He was smiling, but his eyes looked confused. He could see where I was looking. He could see that no one was looking back. I took his hand. Congratulations, he said softly. Thank you, I whispered. I took the diploma cover. It was smooth and fake leather. I walked off the stage. As soon as I got back to my seat, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I shouldn't have checked it. I should have turned it off. But a desperate, stupid part of me thought, maybe they are here. Maybe they made it late. Maybe they are in the back. I pulled the phone out under my robe. It was a text from Jake. A picture. The photo was taken in our living room. My dad was wearing his lucky football jersey. He had a beer in his hand. My mom was laughing, holding a tray of nachos. Jake was doing a thumbs up to the camera. The caption read, "Pre-game starts early. Wings are in the oven. Hurry home after your thing." My breath hitched. They weren't dealing with a dead battery. They weren't nursing a migraine. The sun wasn't too bright in the living room. They were partying. They looked happy. They looked complete. They didn't look like they were missing anyone. The picture blurred as my eyes filled with tears. I realized the truth then. It hit me harder than any slap in the face. They didn't forget. They didn't have an emergency. They didn't care. I wasn't a priority. I was an accessory. I was the person who made their lives easier, but I wasn't a person they celebrated. I was the background character in their lives. I sat there while the rest of the names were called. Smith, Thompson, Williams. I felt small. I felt invisible. I felt like I was shrinking into the folding chair. When the ceremony ended, everyone threw their caps in the air. I held mine in my lap. I didn't want to celebrate. I just wanted to leave. I followed the crowd out of the auditorium. The lobby was chaos. Families were hugging. Balloons were everywhere. A dad bumped into me hugging his son. Sorry, he laughed, just so proud. It's okay, I said. I navigated through the joy of strangers like a ghost. I pushed through the heavy glass doors and stepped out into the parking lot. It was freezing outside. The wind in May can be cruel, and today it cut right through my thin graduation gown. The parking lot was gray and vast. I walked to my car. It was parked in the far back lot because I had arrived so early to secure those seats. The walk felt like miles. When I reached my old sedan, I didn't get in. I couldn't. I leaned against the driver's side door and slid down until I was sitting on the curb. The asphalt was cold and gritty against my legs. I put my diploma on the ground next to a discarded soda cup. I put my head in my knees. I didn't scream. That's what they do in movies. In real life, when your heart breaks, it's quiet. I just cried. Silent, hot tears that ran down my face and dripped onto my black robe. My chest ached. It was a physical pain, right in the center of my ribcage. I thought about the last 6 years. I thought about the shifts. I thought about the dishes. I thought about the rent money. I had done everything right. I had been the good daughter. I had been the responsible one, and it meant nothing to them. My phone pinged again. I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. I picked up the phone. Another text from Jake. Mom wants to know if you can pick up more ranch dressing on your way back. We ran out. I stared at the screen. Ranch dressing. I had just graduated from university with honors. I was sitting on a curb in a freezing parking lot crying my eyes out. And they wanted ranch dressing. I almost threw the phone across the lot. My hand was shaking so bad I almost dropped it. Then another message came through. A different ringtone. It wasn't Jake. It wasn't Mom. It was Aunt Helena. Helena was my dad's sister. She lived in Colorado. She was the black sheep of the family because she moved away 10 years ago and never came back for holidays. My dad always called her selfish. I opened the message. Helena. I was watching the live stream of the ceremony. I saw you walk across that stage, Ruby. I saw you look for them. I know they weren't there. I am so proud of you. You looked beautiful. You did this on your own. Call me if you need to. I read the text 3 times. Someone saw me. Helena wasn't even in the state. She was 1,000 miles away. But she had logged onto the university website. She had watched the grainy livestream. She had waited for my name. And she had seen the truth. She saw me look for them. She validated my pain without me having to say a word. You did this on your own. The words echoed in my head. I looked at the diploma on the ground. I picked it up. I brushed the dust off the fake leather cover. I did do it on my own. I paid for the classes. I studied the books. I wrote the papers. I drove the car. I walked the stage. I didn't owe them this degree. and I didn't owe them ranch dressing. I stood up, my legs were stiff. The wind dried the tears on my cheeks, leaving my skin feeling tight. I looked at the text from Jake again. Mom wants to know if you can pick up more ranch dressing. I didn't reply. For the first time in my life, I didn't reply. I unlocked my car and got in. I threw my cap in the backseat. I started the engine. The heater blasted cold air for a minute before turning warm. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel. I could turn right, towards the highway, towards home, towards the party, towards the noise and the demands and the feeling of being small, or I could turn left. I didn't know where left went. But I knew it wasn't home. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't a roar of anger, it was a click, like a door locking. I was done, I drove. I didn't go to the grocery store, I didn't go to the house. I drove to a coffee shop on the edge of town. It was a quiet place where I used to study sometimes. I walked in, still wearing my graduation dress, though I had taken off the robe. I ordered a black coffee. I sat at a small table in the corner and opened my laptop. My phone was blowing up now. Mom, where are you? Jake, dude, the ranch. Dad, when are you getting here? Aunt Marge is asking about you. I turned the phone to Do Not Disturb. I looked at my bank account. I had $3,200 saved. It was my escape fund, though I had never called it that. It was money I had hidden away from my tips, kept in a separate account they didn't know about. I had been saving it for a deposit on an apartment nearby so I could move out but still visit them. I looked at the number, $3,200. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough. I opened a travel website. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. My heart was hammering in my throat. This was crazy. This was impulsive. I was the responsible one. I was the girl who planned everything. But the girl who planned everything was miserable. I typed in, one-way ticket to Denver, Colorado. Why Colorado? Because of Helena. Because she was the only person who had watched me today. Because she was the selfish one who got away, and suddenly, selfish sounded like free. There was a flight leaving at 7 p.m. tonight from the main airport, 2 hours away. If I booked it, I couldn't go back to the house. I couldn't pack my clothes. I couldn't say goodbye. If I went back to the house to pack, Mom would guilt me. Dad would yell, Jake would laugh, I would get sucked back in. I would end up eating cake in the kitchen while they watched football, pretending it was okay. I looked at the Book Now button. I thought about my bed at home. I thought about my few friends in town. Then I thought about the empty seats. I clicked purchase. Confirmation number XJ9-442. I stared at the screen. I had done it. I had 4 hours to get to the airport. I stood up. I felt light, dizzy. I walked out to my car. I drove to a Walmart. I bought a cheap suitcase, 3 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, a toothbrush, and a phone charger. I changed out of my graduation dress in the Walmart bathroom and threw the dress in the trash. It felt symbolic. I was throwing away the girl who tried to please them. I got back in the car and drove to the airport. My phone was still vibrating. I finally looked at it one last time before I entered the terminal. Mom, Ruby, where are you? The game started. You are being so rude to our guests. I typed one message back. It was to the group chat. Me, I'm not coming home, not tonight, not tomorrow. You didn't show up for me, so I'm done showing up for you. Don't contact me. I blocked their numbers, all of them, Mom, Dad, Jake. Then I walked into the airport. I checked my bag. I went through security. When I sat at the gate, waiting for the plane to Denver, I felt scared. I was terrified. I had no job in Colorado. I had nowhere to live. I only had a vague hope that Aunt Helena would let me crash on her couch. But as the plane took off, rising above the city, I looked down at the grid of lights. Somewhere down there, in a house with a big TV, my family was watching a game. They were probably angry that I hadn't brought the ranch. They were probably calling me ungrateful. Let them talk. I watched the lights disappear into the clouds. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in 6 years, I fell asleep without worrying about what I had to do for someone else when I woke up. I was flying into the dark, but it felt like the first time I had ever seen the light I landed in Denver at 9 p.m. The airport was huge and quiet. I walked to the baggage claim, feeling like I was walking on another planet. My phone was still on Do Not Disturb, but I could feel it pulsing in my pocket, heavy with angry messages I wasn't reading. I saw a woman waving at me near the sliding doors. It was Aunt Helena. She looked older than the last time I saw her. Her hair was gray and cut short, and she wore a thick fleece jacket, but her eyes were kind. She didn't hug me immediately. She just looked at me, at my red eyes and my cheap Walmart suitcase. You look like hell, Ruby, she said softly. I feel like hell, I admitted. Good, she said. That means you're finally feeling something. She pulled me into a hug then. She smelled like pine needles and peppermint. It was the first time a family member had hugged me in years without wanting something from me. We drove out of the city and up into the mountains. It was pitch black, but the air was crisp and clean. Helena lived in a small cabin about 40 minutes outside of Boulder. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. For the first 3 days, I did nothing. I slept for 14 hours at a time. I sat on her back porch wrapped in a blanket, watching the sun hit the pine trees. I drank coffee without looking at the clock. This is what silence sounds like, Helena told me on the second morning, handing me a mug. You get used to it. I keep waiting for someone to yell my name, I said. I keep waiting for someone to tell me the sink is full. No one is going to yell here, she said. You're safe. I started to feel human again. The knot in my chest loosened a little bit every day. I began to think maybe I could stay here. Maybe I could find a job in Denver. Maybe I could start over. But the peace didn't last. On the fourth day, I was sitting at Helena's kitchen table, looking at job listings on my laptop. Helena was making toast. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She picked it up, frowned, and then her face went pale. She looked up at me with a look of pure dread. What? I asked. Is it Dad? It's your uncle, she said. My brother. He just called me. He said your parents are frantic. They're telling everyone you ran away and had a mental breakdown. I didn't have a breakdown, I said, feeling the anger rise again. I left. I know, she said. But Ruby. He said something else. He said your dad was complaining about how he's going to pay the Ruby loans now that you're gone. I froze. The what? I don't have loans. I paid for my tuition with my tips. I have zero debt. Helena put the phone down. Ruby, check your credit report right now. I don't need to, I said. I know my finances, I'm careful. Just check it, she insisted. Her voice was sharp. Please? My hands were shaking as I opened the credit monitoring app on my laptop. I had never checked it before because I never applied for credit. I typed in my social security number. I waited for the loading circle to spin. The screen refreshed. Total debt, $45,000. I stopped breathing. I stared at the number. It had to be a mistake. I clicked on details. Student loan, Parent Plus, $15,000. Opened 4 years ago. Credit card, Visa, $8,000. Maxed out. Credit card, MasterCard, $12,000. Maxed out. Personal loan, $10,000. I clicked on the transaction history for the Visa card. Best Buy 60-inch TV. Ticketmaster, NFL season tickets. Liquor World, Jake's Auto Repair. My vision blurred. I felt like I was going to throw up. They hadn't just ignored me. They hadn't just neglected me. They had stolen my identity. They had used my name, my social security number, my good standing to fund their lifestyle. The TV I watched them watch football on, I bought it. The repairs on Jake's car, I paid for them. The beer they drank while they skipped my graduation, I bought that too. Oh my God, I whispered. Helena came around the table and looked at the screen. She let out a low curse. They opened these in your name, she said. Probably when you turned 18. They've been living off your credit. I worked double shifts, I choked out. Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and fast. I stood on my feet for 8 hours a day to pay my tuition. I thought I was debt-free. I thought I was free. You are free, Helena said firmly. But now we have to fight. I can't pay this, I said, panic rising in my throat. I have $3,000 to my name. This is $45,000. It will take me 10 years to pay this off. No, Helena said. She grabbed my shoulders and turned me to face her. You are not paying a cent of this. This is fraud. This is a crime. But it's my parents, I said. The old programming was kicking in. Don't cause trouble. Don't make a scene. If I report this, they could go to jail. Helena looked me dead in the eye. Ruby, they stole your future. They watched you work yourself to the bone, and they were stealing from you the whole time. They didn't come to your graduation because they were too busy spending your money. Do you understand that? I looked back at the screen. I saw the charge for the liquor store on the day of my graduation. May 15th, $200. That was the moment the sadness died. The victim died. I wiped my face. I looked at Helena. What do? I asked. We hire a lawyer, she said. And we burn it all down. We didn't stay in the mountains. We went to work. Helena lent me the money for a retainer. We found a lawyer in Denver who specialized in familial fraud. His name was Mr. Vance. He was a sharp man with cold eyes and a crisp suit. I sat in his office and laid it all out. The printed credit report, the text messages, the history of neglect. It's a clear case, Mr. Vance said. Identity theft, fraud. But Ruby, you have to be ready. Once we file the police report, the district attorney will pick it up. Your parents will be arrested. Your brother too, if he used the cards. I'm ready, I said. My voice didn't shake. We need to file the report in the jurisdiction where the crime happened, he said. That means you have to go back to your hometown. I felt a cold shiver, but I nodded. I'll go. I flew back 2 days later. I didn't go to my parents' house. I rented a cheap motel room on the other side of town. I went straight to the police station. Sitting in that interrogation room, explaining to a detective that my own mother and father had stolen my identity was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to hand over the evidence. I had to sign the papers that would put them in handcuffs. Are you sure you want to press charges? The officer asked. Most families try to settle this privately. They aren't my family, I said. They're just the people who stole from me. I filed the report. Then I went to the bank to freeze everything. The fallout was immediate. Within 24 hours, the cards stopped working. My dad must have tried to buy gas or beer, and the card was declined. I was in my motel room when my phone started ringing. I had unblocked them just to gather evidence, as Mr. Vance advised. Dad, what the hell did you do? The card is frozen. Mom, Ruby, we are at the store and it's embarrassing. Fix this, Jake, you better answer the phone, Ruby. I didn't answer. I screenshotted every message and sent them to Mr. Vance. Then they found me, I don't know how. Maybe a friend saw my rental car. Maybe they tracked my phone. But on my second night at the motel, I heard pounding on the door. Ruby, open this door. It was my dad's voice. He sounded furious. I looked through the peephole. My dad, Mom, and Jake were standing in the motel hallway. My dad's face was red. We know you're in there, Jake yelled. You ungrateful brat, you froze the accounts. My heart hammered against my ribs. The old Ruby would have opened the door. The old Ruby would have apologized and tried to fix it. But the new Ruby had a lawyer. I stepped back from the door. I didn't say a word. I picked up my phone and dialed 911. Emergency, the operator said. My name is Ruby Miller, I said clearly. I am at the roadside motel, room 104. There are 3 people attempting to break into my room. They are currently harassing me. I have a pending fraud case against them. Officers are on the way, the operator said. I waited. The pounding continued. I'm going to kick this door in, my dad screamed. I raised you, I fed you. You owe us everything, Mom shrieked. I sat on the bed. I put my hands over my ears, but I didn't cry. I just waited. 5 minutes later, I heard the sirens. Then I heard heavy boots in the hallway. Police. Step away from the door. I heard the confusion in my father's voice. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. That's my daughter in there. She's having a mental episode. Step away from the door, sir. I got up and opened the door. The police officer looked at me. Ma'am, are you okay? I'm fine, I said calmly. These people are harassing me. I want them removed. My mother looked at me with wide, shocked eyes. Ruby, we're your parents. No, I said. You're the people who skipped my graduation to watch a game, and you're the people who stole $45,000 from me. The officer looked at my dad. Sir, we have a report on file. You need to come with us. I watched from the doorway as the police escorted them to the parking lot. They weren't arrested right then. Investigations take time, but they were removed. They looked back at me, waiting for me to break. Waiting for me to run after them and say I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I just closed the door and locked the deadbolt. The next day, Mr. Vance helped me get a temporary restraining order. I was legally protected. They couldn't come near me. They couldn't call me. I flew back to Colorado the next morning. I didn't look back. 8 months passed. I didn't just survive, I thrived. With Mr. Vance's help, I disputed the debt. Because I had filed the police report, the credit bureaus removed the loans from my record. My credit score jumped from a ruined 500 back up to 750. I moved to Portland, Oregon. I wanted to be near mountains, but also near the ocean. I got a job as a junior accountant at a firm that actually respected its employees. I had my own apartment, a small studio with big windows and no roommates. I bought my own dishes, and I washed them whenever I wanted. I also started writing. I wrote a blog about financial abuse. I wrote about how families use money to control their children. It went viral. People connected with the story of the empty graduation seats. I was invited to speak at a Financial Independence for Women conference in downtown Portland. It was a big deal. There were going to be 500 people there. On the day of the conference, I wore a sharp blue suit. I felt powerful. I walked onto the stage, and this time the seats weren't empty. The room was full of women who wanted to hear what I had to say. "My name is Ruby," I began into the microphone. "And for a long time, I thought love was a transaction. I thought if I paid enough, if I worked hard enough, my family would love me. I was wrong." The room was silent. They were listening. "I learned that financial abuse isn't just about money," I continued. "It's about theft. It's about stealing your ability to say no." I was halfway through my speech when the double doors at the back of the ballroom slammed open. A commotion started. People turned around. I saw them. My dad, my mom, and Jake. They pushed past the ushers. They looked disheveled. My dad was holding a phone up, recording. "There she is," my dad shouted. His voice echoed in the ballroom. "The liar, the daughter who sent her own parents to jail," the audience gasped. "Tell them the truth, Ruby," Jake yelled. "Tell them how you abandoned us. Tell them how you ruined Dad's reputation." They were storming down the center aisle. My mom was crying, a loud, theatrical wail. "How could you do this to us? After everything we did for you." My heart hammered, but it didn't stop. Security guards were running toward them, but my family was fast. They were making a scene, trying to humiliate me. They wanted me to shrink. They wanted the old Ruby, the one who would run off stage crying, the one who would do anything to stop the yelling. I stood my ground. I gripped the podium. I looked at the sound technician. "Cut their mics," I said, pointing to the aisle, though they didn't have mics. I looked at the security team near the stage. Then I spoke into my microphone. My voice was amplified, booming over their shouting. "Security," I said calmly. "These 3 individuals are violating a court-ordered restraining order filed in the state of Colorado and Oregon." My dad froze. He didn't think I would say it publicly. "They are currently under investigation for $45,000 of identity theft and credit card fraud," I continued, my voice steady. "Please remove them and call the police." The room went deadly silent. My dad lowered his phone. "You wouldn't," he hissed. "I already did," I said. 2 large security guards grabbed my father's arms. 2 more grabbed Jake. A female guard approached my mother. "Let go of me," Jake screamed. "She's lying. It's a matter of public record," I said to the audience. "Case number 4492B, you can look it up." The audience watched in shock as my family was dragged out of the ballroom. They were kicking and screaming, exposing exactly who they were to everyone. They weren't the victims. They were the aggressors. When the doors finally closed behind them, the room was quiet. I took a deep breath. I looked at the crowd. I could have ended the speech there. I could have walked off, but I stayed. "That," I said, pointing to the doors, "is what it looks like when you stop playing their game. It gets ugly before it gets peaceful. But I promise you, the peace is worth it." For a second, no one moved. Then one woman in the front row stood up and started clapping. Then another. Then the whole room rose. They weren't clapping for a performance. They were clapping because they saw the truth. I stood there, bathing in the applause. It was the graduation moment I never got. And this time, I didn't need my parents in the front row. I had myself. The arrest at the conference was the final nail in the coffin. Because they had violated the restraining order in front of 500 witnesses and security cameras, the police had everything they needed. They were arrested that afternoon. The investigation into the fraud concluded 2 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. The signatures on the loan documents didn't match mine. The IP addresses for the credit card applications came from their house, not my apartment. The spending history, football tickets, men's clothing, car parts, clearly didn't benefit me. They were charged with multiple counts of identity theft and fraud. I had to go to court one last time to give a victim impact statement. I stood in the courtroom. My parents and Jake were sitting at the defense table. They were wearing orange jumpsuits. They looked smaller, older. My mom wasn't painting her nails. My dad wasn't watching a game. They looked scared. When the judge asked if I had anything to say, I walked to the podium. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. "Your Honor," I said. "For my entire life, I was told that family is everything. I was told that I existed to serve the family unit. But family is supposed to protect you. These people didn't protect me. They preyed on me." I looked at them. "I don't hate them," I said. "I just want to be safe from them. I want my name back. I want my future back. And I want them to understand that I am not a resource to be harvested. I am a person. The judge nodded. The sentence was handed down. My father and brother, who were the primary spenders, were sentenced to 2 years in prison. My mother was given 5 years of probation and mandatory counseling. They were also ordered to pay restitution, though I knew I'd never see that money. It didn't matter. The banks had already cleared my name. The restraining order was made permanent. Lifetime. Walking out of the courthouse that day, the sun was shining. It was a typical rainy Portland day, but the sun broke through the clouds just as I stepped onto the sidewalk. I checked my phone. My credit score app sent me a notification. Score update, 780. Excellent. I took a deep breath of the wet, pine-scented air. I was 29 years old. I had no debt. I had no family obligations. I had no one waiting for me to clean their kitchen. I walked to my car, got in, and drove to a bakery. I bought a slice of cake. Not a whole cake for a party, just one slice for me. I sat in my car and ate it. It was the best cake I had ever tasted. 3 years have passed since the trial. My life is quiet now, but it is full. I live in a small house in a neighborhood full of trees. I have a garden where I grow tomatoes and basil. I have a dog named Barnaby who sleeps at the foot of my bed and is always happy to see me when I come home. I'm a senior accountant now. I make good money. I use it to travel. I've been to Italy, to Japan, to New Zealand. I send postcards to Aunt Helena, who is the only family I talk to. She came to visit me last Christmas. We drank hot cocoa and watched movies and no one yelled. It was perfect. I still have my diploma. For a long time, I kept it in a box. I couldn't look at it without remembering the cold parking lot and the empty seats. But recently, I took it out. I bought a nice frame, a really expensive mahogany one. I hung it in my hallway, right next to the front door. It doesn't remind me of their absence anymore. When I look at it, I don't see the empty chairs. I see the girl who studied on the bus. I see the girl who worked double shifts. I see the girl who drove to Colorado. I see the woman who stood up in a ballroom and spoke the truth. That diploma isn't proof that I was a good daughter. It's proof that I was a survivor. I still do public speaking. I talk to high school students and college kids about financial literacy and setting boundaries. Last week, after a talk at a local library, a young girl came up to me. She looked just like I used to: tired eyes, nervous hands, wearing a coat that wasn't quite warm enough. My parents, she started, then stopped. They want me to take out a loan for my dad's business. They said if I loved them, I would do it. I looked at her. I saw the trap closing around her. Listen to me, I said, holding her gaze. Love is not a loan. You don't owe them your future. She started to cry. But what if they get mad? What if they stop talking to me? Then you let them, I said gently. It will be the hardest thing you ever do, but then it will be the best thing you ever do. I wrote down my email address and gave it to her. You're not alone. She took the paper like it was a lifeline. That is my life now. I am not a victim. I am a lighthouse. I stand on the rocks where I crashed, and I shine a light so others don't have to wreck their ships in the dark. If your family never shows up for you, show up for yourself. If they leave your seat empty, fill it with your own pride. Walking away from people who hurt you is not betrayal. Sometimes it's the only way to survive. And I did more than